This is the Christmas Island red crab. Yes, one of those that fill the entire island during the migrations. But it will be over very soon. Red crabs will be destroyed by ants. Since 1990, ants have killed more than 50 million of crabs, which is 40% of the total amount. USA, Spain, Japan. Nobody was ready for an invasion like this. This footage shows ants ransacking wasps' nests completely, killing all the wasps and taking away everything. And this case isn't an exception. It happens all the time. It seems weird, but an ant is able to easily defeat a wasp that can be several times larger. And what about the sting? The sting is useless, because the ants have their own. This is a legacy from an ancient ancestor. Yes, ants and wasps are distant relatives, in some way. Ant sting is thinner than human hair, and during the attack is directed to the victim's body to inject venom. In addition, they have powerful jaws and acid, so this wasp just doesn't have any chance. But why do ants kill wasps? Why do they destroy their nests? Wasps are very aggressive predators. We can't say that they're pleasant neighbors, and to resolve the problem, ants have to deal not only with adult wasps. There's nothing complicated about it. They do the same thing with Avondale spiders. Myrmecia ants reach the spider's nest, kill the smallest ones, and kick the mother and the others. And then they destroy the nest. Yes, they do everything so that spiders leave and never come back. The reason is very simple. These creatures feed at the same time in the same territory. Ants don't need competitors, and it's easier to get rid of spiders while they're small. Well, I don't think that size and age is a problem for ants. If they want, they can kill anyone. They need only to come together in a large group. There's a common water snake captured and almost eaten alive.
He's still alive. My goodness, this is terrible. He's a big one. Look how big he is.
Or, for example, another snake that was also unlucky to meet ants. Ants need only few hours to eat a whole gecko, or as I said, a rather big spider. Just give ants enough time to do it, they have all the other resources. But how could it be that such small creatures have such an arsenal of weapons? And all this doesn't contradict any laws of nature? Not really. Ants are the most ancient insects. They existed even more than 100 million years ago. And of course, all this time, they had to fight to survive. They fought so much and so often that it was very important to their evolution. And it doesn't matter that many enemies just died out during this time. For example, in the distant past, the main enemies of ancient ants were dinosaurs, birds, and mammals. At that time, ants were able to use their powerful stings, but it was useless against the other insects. Then their sting was transformed into a chemical delivery system that could be used against other ants. Jaws also help a lot. Some ants are able to explode and spray everything around them with a sticky substance. Others can spit at their enemies. It seems 2 million years more and ants would invent guns. It's similar to the development of the artificial intelligence. There are many examples how it not only learned during the game, but is also able to find a flaw in the system. Yes, even today, the artificial intelligence can hack a simple game and find a way to break the rules. And not so much time has passed since its creation, it isn't surprising that the ants could do 100 times more. This is an ordinary ant colony. And this is also a colony. It belongs to the Argentine ants. Initially, they lived in the subtropics of South America, but at the beginning of the 21st century, they were found also in South Africa, the Mediterranean, Australia, New Zealand, and California. This is a real disaster. In a new territory, Argentine ants begin to destroy all local ants of any species. Their purpose is to form a huge mega-colony. It means that insects that live in different colonies are genetic relatives. Well, it's like when you moved out of your parents' house, but you still live next door. According to scientists, a big number of this population is comparable only to human society. And you know what? These colonies continue to grow. I wonder what other insects feel when they see such an army of orcs. I wanted to say of Argentine ants. Do they understand that there's no Gandalf to save them? Are they horrified? Well, I'll die soon. Okay, let's keep working. It's hard to believe that insects have feelings, and it's even harder to study this question, but scientists are trying to do it. For example, they experimented with the Drosophilidae flies, trying to cause them a primal fear of predators. And it seems like they succeeded. Frightened flies needed some time to calm down and return to eating, so they felt something. Therefore, other insects also may be afraid of Argentine ants, Perhaps they already have developed something like a phobia. And it would be logical in contrast to the human fear of insects. What can they do to us, really? Insects are tiny. Well, most of them. Insectophobia, or a fear of insects, probably has different reasons. Some insect bites. Some of them carry disease or could envenom you. Anyone wants to stay away from these insects. But what about the harmless butterfly? It's possible that it doesn't cause fear, only disgust. The human brain has learned to equalize these emotions with time, and probably this is because of the anatomy. Insect bodies are so much different than animals or birds' bodies, and it's scary. It's not a surprise that insects are used in horror films, even ants. In fact, any small creature will seem scary if you make it 100 times bigger. No to mention this terrifying sound. First news is that it really sounds like an ant. Second news is that in fact, this real voice sounds even scarier. Ants communicate using pheromones, but it doesn't mean that they do it silently. Moreover, their voices are different depending on their position in the colony. This, for example, is the voice of an ordinary working ant. And this one is a soldier. And finally, the queen. It's amazing how in 1954, the filmmakers were able to guess ant intonations. Would real ants be scared if they had seen their huge copy? It's hard to say. Apparently, ants, as well as animals, don't have an abstract fear of death. They aren't afraid to cease to exist. They are afraid only of the things that can kill them. For example, they can be afraid of one particular predator, and it's really different from human perception. In most cases, we're alarmed by everything connected with the conception of death, especially if these things are human remains. One of the most terrifying crypts in human history is located directly under Paris. There are bones of approximately 6 million of people from Parisian cemeteries. The purpose was to free cemeteries, so the bones were piled in the catacombs. Only a few years later, people began to organize bones and skulls in a special way. And you know what? Now it looks even scarier. Today, this realm of death is something like a museum of the history of Paris and people who live there. And it seems like there's nothing strange about it. But what if I say that ants have something similar? Only one species, Formica archibaldi. Even scientists call its behavior strange. These ants not only hunt other ants, not only eat them, but also collect their skulls. Yes, there are a lot of skulls of the Odontomachus ants in their nests. They just lie in there. Scientists don't have any idea why these ants collect only skulls. Probably they like all this French atmosphere.
Bonjour.
There's a theory that ants just don't know that they have to get rid of their murdered enemies. Well, they are sloppy, but they know that dead bodies have to be removed from their anthills. This way they'd avoid infection. This behavior is called necrophoresis. It's typical for social insects like bees and termites. And there are even undertakers in ant colonies that deal with the dead. Usually they put them in a special tomb inside the anthill or throw them out. If the undertaker finds an ant with a smell of the dead, this insect will be immediately removed from the colony. By the way, if you put this smell on a living insect, it'll be killed and thrown out, just in case. And now I tell you one thing that surprised me a lot. Ants understand that the contact with the dead is dangerous because it can provoke disease. But insects can't wash their paws and they don't have personal protective equipment. So this is why the undertakers are trying to remain social distance to not infect the others. They spend a lot of time outside the anthill, or they try to remain outside while others are inside. But ants know not only how to bury the dead, they also know how to heal the living. And they don't need to use human synthetic substances for that. Sometimes nature does it all by itself. During the American Civil War, doctors noticed that many of the soldiers' wounds were glowing with a greenish-blue glow. Glowing wounds were healing faster and scars were less noticeable. Can you imagine this? Everything was dirty, insanitary. There were many insects and people miraculously were healing. This phenomenon was called angel's glow. Many years later, scientists discovered that no angels were involved in treatment, but there was bacteria, Photohabdus luminescens. The chemical substances from these bacteria killed all other bacteria, therefore they had antibiotics effect. The ants' antibiotics work the other way. Wait a minute, I said ants' antibiotics? What? Yes, ants have not only the undertakers but also chemists. Somehow they learned how to collect resin and mix it with the acid they produce themselves. After that, chemists put this mixture all over the anthill. According to the scientists, the composition destroys deadly fungus and protects the colony from epidemics. Each anthill has its own Heisenberg. Well, and Jesse Pinkman, I guess.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
See you later.